understanding the scale of problem. Cancer has become so common that every year a lot of people are getting affected by cancer. I would like to understand, in general, what are the key factors? Have we been able to identify the factors which are leading to this massive rise in the cases? And why India, despite of we being so much particular and conscious of things around us, why us?
So, actually, when you say that the cases have gone up tremendously, actually we're measuring less than what's really happening, because cancer in India is still not a notifiable disease. Notifiable, like COVID was a notifiable disease, wherein every case that you diagnose, you have to notify to the government. Now, many states in India have made cancer a notifiable disease, but at the all India level, it is still not. And so we're actually missing out on a lot of cases. So I would in fact consider this burden and the actual numbers to be way higher, than we are officially measuring. Now, to your point on why it's happening, I think there's several factors. One, of course, there are lifestyle issues, right from, our lifestyles of the kind of food we are consuming, sedentary lifestyles, overweight, obesity is going up, and that is a risk factor for certain cancers. We have more stressful lifestyles, especially in the urban areas. We don't sleep on time, or we don't sleep enough. So there's correct food, there's contamination, but I think pollution in general is becoming a big issue. Air pollution, and now we know that in most of our cities in North India, we struggle with it pretty much through the year. Air pollution is becoming a big factor for, say, cases of lung cancer in non-smokers. Because we've always considered lung cancer to be a smoker's disease. But now we are finding more and more young non-smokers, women, getting lung cancer. So the pollution, the contamination, lifestyles, all of this is adding up to the higher burden.
And one more thing, that cancer treatment is something which is extremely expensive and inaccessible for many. In that scenario, how do we see the policy makers attempting to this problem and making that gap between affordability and quality care lesser?
Yeah, that's a very important point you're raising, because I think we've taken some steps forward in terms of saying our public health insurance schemes like Ayushman Bharat. There are a lot of cancer patients who have availed treatment under those. The challenge is that they don't yet cover a lot of the latest therapies. So the immunotherapies, the oral targeted therapies, which can be very expensive. They can be 1 lakh to 2-3 lakh rupees per month, just the cost of one medicine. So our government insurance schemes are not covering that. So if you're a poor person, then for you to be able to access that is impossible. So you will probably be getting some age-old chemotherapy. So I think that is something we need to really improve in the government system. In the private health insurance, apart from, of course, increasing the penetration of health insurance, also we need to evolve, because a lot of private health insurance providers still consider cancer to be a certain stereotypical disease, right? Where you're only getting chemotherapy, you are only admitted in hospital. Now, there's a lot of treatments where people don't need to be admitted. They could just be having an oral tablet and, getting on with their day. Or they could be having other types of treatments which are outpatient. So a lot of private health insurance providers will create problems in even reimbursing those kind of expenses. So they also need to evolve with the times, that cancer is not just one type of disease or one type of treatment. It can be a whole variety of things, and it's important to consider all of that when you are looking at insurance claims.
Also, one more point. Cancer prevention and early detection is something about which still the population remains unaware. And that is something which is the need of hour, and people have to realize that the sooner they get to know that the problem is there, they have to start the prevention, or rather the treatment procedure. Should policy focus more on preventive healthcare rather than just the treatment infrastructure which is there?
Yeah, you know, I think our numbers are so large that we cannot afford to have every other cancer patient coming to us at stage 3 or stage 4, which is what is happening right now, you know. In some cases, it's very difficult to diagnose the cancer at early stages. We don't even have screening for it. Like I said, lung cancer in a non-smoker. You know, there's no systematic screening we have for it today. So that usually will come at stage 3, stage 4. But a lot of other cancers we do have screening for. Whether it's breast, whether it's cervical, whether it's oral. We even have a vaccine for cervical. So we have to push on the preventive side. And that has to be both demand and supply, right? So of course the government has to do better with its screening outreach. It has to be more regular. It cannot be just one-off or, you know, sporadic. But also people, we need to create that demand for that screening amongst people. And like you said, educate them that, you know, it's much better for you if you come now. Because even if you're diagnosed at stage 1 or stage 2, even up till stage 3, we could possibly fully cure you. But if you come at 4, you know, the metastatic, it becomes much harder, much more expensive. So I think we need to convey this to people, because a lot of people don't get tested because of the fear that what if it's cancer, and what if I'll have to, you know, spend my daily wages, my earnings, I'll lose out on work. So just let it be, you know, I don't even want to know. So I think we need to change that to say that it's better you know at stage 1 rather than you know at stage 4. And it's better not just in terms of outcomes, but also financial, which is a huge factor for the most Indians in the country when they are considering any healthcare, diagnosis or treatment.
Workshops and educational workshops to make people understand that what this disease can be like, or what this situation can be like for early detection, as just we discussed. What can be the other possibilities of spreading awareness among people?
Yeah, you know, it needs, because we are such a large country, it needs a more localized approach as well.
Particularly the rural section of the society. Correct. How do we approach them?
Yes. So, I mean, mass media, of course, has huge benefits, and I think we should fully utilize it. We don't utilize it as well as we should. We tend to use mass media only if it's, you know, a certain day or a certain month. But cancer, you know, you need all year round awareness. So that, of course, is there. But like you said, for rural areas, for specific tribal areas, we need tailored campaigns. You know, it cannot be this one size fits all, because everybody will understand your message in a different way. And so you need to design it, tailored to the local culture, sensitivities. There are a lot of gender related issues where women, don't want to, say, get screened for breast cancer or cervical cancer. Even saying these words is a taboo in many parts of the country still. You know, even saying the word breast is like, you know, how can you say that? So I think we need to, with all those factors in mind, design those awareness campaigns. But the most important thing, like I said, it shouldn't be a one-off. It should be consistent. You can't have one big bang campaign and then you forget about it. You know, you have to keep repeating that message, because these are things which are long-term, behavior change, and it's not easy to bring about. The
same kind of process which we followed when the toilets happened. Yes. That was a campaign. Yes. We did continuously, we approached people, I mean the government policies and the change makers in the society, they kept on visiting people and making them tell about the pros and cons of the toilet campaign. Like this is what I can just recall right now. Achha, Urvashi ji, tell me one thing. How much would you agree to the fact that there still lies a huge divide between urban and rural accessibility to the healthcare system?
Yeah, absolutely. Huge divide, no doubt. And even in urban, You know, there's a lot of differences. What the urban poor might be able to access is very different from what a middle class or an upper class person might be able to access. So a lot of geographical disparities, lot of, like I said, income level disparities are huge. Just recently, there was a patient who I'm now helping for his medication. He said, you know, I just want to give up my treatment. And his treatment is working well. You know, he's responding well to that medicine. But he said, I'm going to stop it because I have sold my land, I've sold everything. Now the only thing left to sell is my family. So I will stop this treatment. You know, so now we are trying to scramble, do crowdfunding, try to get money from here and there for him. Because imagine, it's such a criminal situation to be in where a treatment is working so well on somebody and they are stopping it only because they don't have the money. So these inequities are huge, and this is what we really need to tackle, because no one person's life is more precious than the other. You know, everybody's is equally precious. And just because of where you're born or whether you're born into privilege or not should not determine your outcomes.
With technology evolving so fast, how do we see AI in particular playing out in this sector and helping us with the early advancement of cancer detection and diagnosis and the treatment as well?
I think AI, you know, like you said, in the screening part can really help us. We already have some startups doing very good work where they are using AI to see just simple X-rays. You know, can we start to at least get a sense of somebody who might potentially be having lung cancer or something, you know, using AI. So I think there's huge potential in that domain, but also in treatment, like you said, personalizing treatment, you know, helping us get a tailored treatment plan for every patient, screening through the drug libraries to see that this drug might work best on this particular patient.
It's evolving so fast.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it cannot be one size fits all. It cannot be this cookie cutter that everybody, you give the same chemo, the same radiation. You have to see that person's profile and accordingly tailor their treatment. And I think in this, AI can really help us.
And how do we see the public-private partnership? How crucial the role of public-private partnership do we see playing out in this regard?
It's very crucial because I think a lot of our health sector is private. A lot of it is informal, of course, that's a challenge. But we have a lot of private providers. So we cannot, you know, just ignore them. We have to work, the government has to work in partnership with the private providers. And I think they also offer strengths in technology. They offer strengths in helping scale up, you know, certain kinds of operations. So I think all those skill sets have to be leveraged. And we have to see where can we really utilize the strengths of the private sector. So that, I think, is very important to do.
Also, Urvashi ji, pharmaceutical sector plays a critical role, and it's an important sector when the treatment of critical diseases or critical issues or critical situations like these are concerned, where the stage 4 cancer is there, and of course, you know, the whopping amount a person has to take out from the pocket to afford those medicines. How do we see that the pharmaceutical sector ensures that life-saving drugs are affordable, and what policy changes are required there?
Yeah, this is a big issue. Like I said, the immunotherapies, the targeted therapies are out of reach for majority of the country's population unless there is some support for them. So I think, of course, government has to work with the pharma sector. Because pharma, at the end of the day, you know, they have to make their margins, they have to make their profits, right? So government has to work with them, and government can do that because India, what is India's strength? It's our numbers. We can give so many patients that no other country in the world can give potentially. So that negotiation has to happen between the government and the pharma sector to say that, you know, it's not going to be at loss for you because we're giving you the numbers, right? Ultimately, it's volume and price, right? So we are at least giving the volume. Can you bring down the price a little bit, at least for our market? So I think that is a conversation. But equally, I would say we need to boost indigenous research precisely for this reason. You know, we need more drugs made in India, which have affordable prices. We cannot always be trying to export a drug from outside, you know, which a multinational has made. That will be expensive. So we need to also push on our domestic research, which will be much more affordable, much more tailored to our population's needs.
My last question, Urvashi ji. One key policy reform which you believe could drastically improve the cancer care in India?
I think, you know, we need to really normalize the conversation around cancer. And I think that's what I feel, that we need to engage everybody in this discussion. A lot of times we only think of it when the problem is knocking at our doorstep. But I think now people need to realize that, you know, it's already there in almost every household or every other household. So let's normalize it. Let's have a conversation like it is a serious, deadly disease. And let's push for research. Let's push, like I said, you know, for Indians to be in clinical trials, for us to get the latest drugs. So I think the more we make it a mass movement, that is when we'll be able to affect some of these changes.
And of course, what we have always been talking about, that this is a serious issue which needs to be addressed, and sooner, because already we are halfway through, we are understanding how mammoth the kind of problem this is. So the sooner we approach it, the easier will be for the coming generations also, and people to approach it. Thank you so much, Urvashi ji.
Thank you. Thank
so
you
kind
so
of you. You have spared your precious time and been a part of our endeavor like always.
Thank you so much.